Hi, I'm Kenli Mattus, and I'm here to tell you about my Musicians on Call moment. Um, I've been volunteering for Musicians on Call for about 17 years, and I was the first musician on call. And I would say the biggest moment is probably when I was asked to go play in the hospital for the first time because I had no idea what I was doing and what I was getting into, and it completely changed my life. So, Michael Solomon and Vivek Tiwaria have you guys to thank for that. And so that's probably the biggest moment, but there have been tens of thousands of moments in hospital rooms that have changed me, and I think have been really special moments with Musicians on Call. So I'm gonna pick one moment which happened tonight. I was just in the hospital a couple hours ago. I'm wearing my Musicians on Call T-shirt, and usually when I go into the hospital and when I go into the rooms, it's a very light experience. You know, we always have fun, and it's joyous in most cases. And so tonight, I think it was the second room I went into. I think it was the first room I went into. Um, there was a teenage girl there and her parents, and she was kind of having a hard time figuring out what song she might want to hear. She was definitely a little down, and so she had asked me for a rock song, so I figured I would play. I was playing a Foo Fighters song, an old Foo Fighters song called "My Hero." So I started to play it, and they were really liking it, and the mom was smiling. And then next thing I knew, when I got to the chorus, which is says "There goes my hero," I look up at the patient, at the girl, and she was tearing up, and the dad started to cry and went over to her, and they were hugging and they were crying, and I wasn't really sure if I should stop. It's happened before where people have cried. It doesn't happen all the time, but it happens, and I generally feel like crying is cathartic and isn't necessarily a bad thing, and definitely something that needed to come out. So I sort of played a little softer, but kept going, and the mom was smiling and and also crying a bit. But after I finished, um, the daughter I noticed was smiling then, and then the dad came over and gave me this giant bear hug, and he was crying on my shoulder and just crying and crying, and but he was giving me this amazing, amazing hug, and he thanked me and I thanked him, and I have never had that ever happen in my years of volunteering, and it was just a wonderful experience because I could tell that it meant so much to him that I was doing that for them, and it really meant a lot to me that they were releasing whatever they had to release in that moment, and I knew that it helped in that way, and it felt really beautiful, and you know, that's my Musicians on Call moment. There are so many though, so anyway, thanks for watching this video, and MOC, 500,000 patients and families and nurses and doctors that we played for, so very wonderful milestone. I'm really proud.